soon. Yes. First of all, William appreciate it was super thrilled and I learned a lot. And I think, funnily enough, we didn't really speak with the William before, but I think we are having quite an overlapping topics. And I do think that I will be covering some of the AI factory part, so I would kind of be more an extension of what William has presented. But maybe before I would jump with that, I would want to give a little bit of, let's say, insights of us working with AI marketing principle, and also we're doing a little bit of comparison between the US and the EU market, which has already started. Before I go into that, again, just a quick question. How many of you know who Nebius is? Just show it. Okay. Because I was asked primarily not to do any sales pitch, I do remember that. I'll go just quickly for you to understand who we are, because again, this is for the context, then I will be switching to the market. So again, who we are. Essentially, we are a company that has a legacy in running general as well. We have pivoted into AI, a specialized cloud platform. We are the NVIDIA cloud provider, and what's importantly, we are a Dutch-based company with around 500 people based in the Netherlands, and we also have several people across other European countries. We have some people located in UK, our AI research team. We have people based in Belgrade, in Israel, in Germany, and some other regions. We are a full-stack AI platform, and again, this is why it's quite relevant. So we own everything from the very ground up, so we build our own data centers and we deploy the NVIDIA-based hardware, and we have our software people to do the cloud platform, again, back to the value creation to William's point, and we provide some of the high-level applications. Again, this is where we are today, and again, as I mentioned, we are based in Europe. We also have a few data centers, AI factories, or if you want to call them, both in Europe and the US. Again, the US primarily because that's where the general hype of AI is happening today. But again, closer to the middle of this presentation, I want to highlight there is an opportunity in Europe that we also want to support. This is basically a quick cloud platform stack. So again, our main point here, we're not just a supercomputer that just puts the wires, the hardware, puts them into the network connection, and off we go. So we actually provide a lot of different services that any AI company, GenAI company can utilize to develop or deploy their GenAI applications. And again, we serve a lot of different companies. We serve model builders, we serve the healthcare spaces, we serve legal tech, we serve retail, and etc. We have very big companies working with our platform. We also have very small companies working with our platform. We actually have our own startup program, so again, feel free to look for the details and apply if you need it. And with that, I think I'm going to switch into my second part, is the comparison part. So I wanted to quickly share the insights. So like we've been on the market for 2 years now, almost. And again, primarily our two markets were the US and Europe. And I just wanted to basically share the insights of these 2 years working with different markets and how they are different. And some of that actually goes back to what William was mentioning. So when it comes to the US, the majority of our customer profiles today are essentially the GenAI startups. So there's a lot of VC investments going in the US. You see the numbers for yourself. So like just in the Q1 2025, there was roughly $80 billion allocated into the VC funding. This represents 70% of the total global AI funding. And actually, if you take the entire VC investment that has happened in the US, 70% has allocated to the AI companies. In comparison to that, and again, this was also something that the previous speaker has mentioned, when you look at how VCs or what is the private investment going within the European territories, you understand that we are a little bit shy. So instead of 80 billion, in Q1 2025, there was only $13 billion invested, and that represents only 12% of the global funding. And only 25% of the total EU VC funding is applied towards AI. So essentially, we have smaller funds that Europe invests, or VC funds in Europe invest, and even within those smaller ranges, we still have just a quarter of the funds going into the US. So companies are willing to develop, but again, they're not having enough fund fuel for them to be able to invest. And again, just another quite an interesting use case here. So I have subscribed to several, newsletters that basically show how many investments are happening in the US, and like my inbox is filled with this like notifications, and basically that notification gives me this average of like every few days, 5 AI startups are being funded in the US. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any statistics around here, but I would assume it's going to be much lower. Another point that already the previous speaker has touched, when you compare the difference between the markets that basically help US flourish and Europe not to develop as fast, is about the legislation. So again, both the GDPR and the EU Act has been mentioned already, and then for Europe and then in the US, it's still lighter data protection legislation. It's still, there are some regulations in the UI. There is a problem because again, the US has different states and every state applies their own legislation, but on average, they're still quite free to do anything they want. So again, that's another basically reason why we're having this difference between the growth of the GenAI startups in principle. And last but not least, also touching point on the compute, which is essentially something that helps and supports this companies, is essentially, when you look at the US, you have many GPU accelerated computes provided by all the hyperscalers. They have massive regions there, and basically every region has some kind of GPU part attached to that. And there's new terminology which is called neoclouds. Essentially, these are the new companies like us that are being specialized on AI infrastructure. So many neoclouds are present there. So again, there is a variety of compute options for the companies to be actually leverage AI infrastructure. In the meantime, when you look at the EU, you do have all these hyperscalers here as well. But again, not necessarily all these hyperscalers have some kind of GPU regions within the territories, the countries. But even when you have them, it's almost impossible to get hold of them because again, they're limited. The supply is short. The supply is short. The demand is massive, and you just have to see them wait there. And again, just a handful regional neoclouds that are present here, being one of them, but hopefully the situation will improve in the future term. And that basically turns this table into the challenge. Like my main discussion is like the challenges that we have for Europe. I was thinking about whether we can convert them into somehow opportunities for companies to actually leverage those. So the initial one was about the smaller private investments. And again, the opportunity that we as a startup community have is essentially this government and EU-led AI funding that William has already mentioned. So governments, like specific country governments or like overall European institutions are stepping up by actually fueling some funds into this market. So again, there were already discussions about the French Sovereign AI Fund. There is a new UK AI opportunity plan that has been kind of like presented in the UK. Also an initiative to actually build some local data centers and infrastructure for UK country. And again, there's overall EU Invest AI initiatives that basically represents the 20 billion AI investments in the next few years. When it comes to regulated AI, which we do have in Europe, again, there is some opportunity around that. So again, back to the point of William saying that, okay, there are a lot of models, OpenAI, Anthropic, and etc. But there's always a question whether these models are being trained and they actually use ethic or clean data. So when you look about application of all the GenAI, application of the all GenAI platforms that are being created right now, I think one of the ways how these GenAI applications will be monetized is actually working together with enterprises, more traditional companies, because they never, my assumption is that they will never use the platform in a direct way, but again, they will be looking for some SaaS-like applications for them to be integrated or used by enterprises. And enterprises are quite skeptical about something that is non-auditable, non-transparent, non-ethical, because again, the reputation is on the stake, so they want to make sure that whatever they use, they have everything under control. So by providing, by actually, trying to work within the regulated AI environment, there is an opportunity to build a domain-specific GenAI models, apply them to different verticals. So every vertical has their own use cases that can be, their use cases and pain points that should be kind of resolved. And again, being built on top of the ethical and transparent AI, that's an entry point for companies to actually work together with large enterprises and public sector. And again, William was also mentioning about the talent migration. So again, just to build on top what has been mentioned before, we have amazing talent pools within Europe. We have UK, we have France, we have Netherlands, we have several other schools that are bringing out these new talents. But there's another interesting story because of what is happening right now in the US with all the migration policies. There is actually a lot of migration of the international community that has come to the US and they don't want to stay there anymore longer. So they're moving back and they're actually settling in the new AI, new talent hubs. And again, UK, France, and Netherlands being one of them. So please let them come. Let's not shut the windows, and let's actually, leverage this particular moment for us to boost that talent. But something that I have not touched on this challenge and opportunity, how to solve the limited EU compute. Because again, we need to have that because that's basically something that we need to base our application on. And here where I come to supercomputer and AI factories, and I have a bit different view on that. So we do have several supercomputers already deployed in Europe. We have one in Netherlands, we have one in Luxembourg, we have some in the Nordics, and etc. But the problem with the supercomputers, at least at this moment of time, that they were first of all very capex heavy. So you have to have some funds to just put into that compute, build that supercomputer, and that's it. So you have to have a lot of funds to just throw it away. And again, the problem with that supercomputer is, again, it's limited in the scale. So you just buy one box and it sits there. But again, with all the applications, all the cloud applications, it's all about flexibility and scale. What if tomorrow you need to have twice as much of the capacity because of the huge growth that your application has kind of created? There's a viral moment about that. Supercomputers do not provide that flexibility. In turn, this new term of AI factories is essentially the public-private partnership between someone who has, let's say, data centers and also someone who has capex. So it's all about partnering and actually splitting the burden of the capex or actually removing that whatsoever for you to be able to build them faster and to build them in much more, in many instances of that. The other problem between, or like the other change from moving from supercomputers to AI factories is essentially one of deployment and limited maintenance. So what William has mentioned, I hope that in Groningen we will be having an AI factory that will have a normal team that will be, maintaining and supporting it in the right way. Because many other computers, this is rather just a facility without anyone who's properly supporting it. And actually, what happens because of that is you have a box. It's been bought. It is being sometimes used, but if something goes wrong, it's very hard to fix it, or it takes a lot of time. Because again, supercomputers are not just a normal server that you put under your desk. It's a crazy machine, again, fly jet, as William has mentioned, and you have to have proper people to properly manage it. Because again, it's it's HPC, and then you have to have a proper knowledge how to manage it. And again, when turning into the AI factory, another issue of the supercomputer is what we call it's a single tenant machine. So if you bought it for yourself, or if you bought it for the organization, you essentially limit the access of different people that can use that computer. So yes, you can potentially buy it for a university, yes, you can potentially buy it for a country, but then again, if there's a limited number of people who use it, and sometimes they don't use it, actually that supercomputer is just stays idle. So your investment, that heavy capex investment, is not giving you the return on that as fast as possible. And again, with AI factors, this is a new design when it's a multi-tenant architecture, still providing enough levels of isolations that there should be some privacy between users. Users don't want to share the data, etc. Data is very important asset. But again, the AI factors allow you to do that. So as a result, you have more people using that at the same time. The idle time is smaller, and then you're basically paying back on the return on investment much faster. And last but not least, which is also super important, I mean, if you have been, following all these new announcements of the new chips coming online, you understand that those companies, both NVIDIA and AMD, they're also accelerating. So every 6 months, they're now announcing the new chip that is 4 times faster, 10 times faster, and many more flops and etc. By still staying within that supercomputer mentality, you're buying a box, which is obsolete in the next 6 months. So if you want to keep that innovation happening, you have to have an AI factor that is being constantly upgraded, enhanced, and then would basically support your further innovations. You don't want to innovate on something which is 2 years old, because essentially it's not, let's say, the edge of the world kind of technology. And another component that I just wanted to mention on the previous slide, it's not only about the hardware itself. It should be let's say, a combination between the hardware, very accelerated one, but also a good platform that any ML engineer or AI researcher could use on top of it. So it should be very easily and like multi-use case platform that can be used by anyone who wants to use the AI factory. So this is where we want to be taking a very active part. So again, as a Nebius, right now, our business model is where we deploy our own data centers. But we, being a proud, resident of the Dutch community, and also being part of the European community, we definitely want to have a very active engagement within this EU scene of building the new AI factories. So as we speak, we are applying to several tenders that are being announced. Again, one is being announced in Europe as well. One is in the UK, there's another one in France, there's many more. And we definitely want to be contributing to that, to make sure that Europe is becoming the champion of AI, which is based on its local built AI infrastructure, where we should not be threatened by someone like Trump asking Microsoft to turn on that button and not being able to use your email. So let's be ethical, let's stay local, and let's drive that innovation. So I hope with that, this picture that we have today, and this is, so yes, this is where we are. But I hope with our approach, we definitely can help, and I don't know why, but animation is not working. But I really want to be there where we basically help to deploy these AI factors across Europe and help Europe to be at the forefront of the AI innovation. And this is it for me. Thank you.